Chapter 19, The Kingdom of Wishes. And now we must return to the castle of Rosas, where Queen Amaya and the court awaited the return of their king. The curfew was still in order, for if someone were to leave the castle, they would surely spread the rumor of a dragon, causing an angry mob to beat upon the castle doors for shelter, and there was only so much room and food to go around. Amaya felt sorry for the people outside the castle who were going about their lives, never suspecting the calamity that awaited them. As usual, when her mind was unsettled, she went to the chapel. She knelt at the altar, praying silently, when her husband's voice came to her. Amaya, Amaya, what does my lord require of me? She whispered. The dragon has come. It has already massacred a village. Take my second staff from a bedroom cabinet, extract the wishes from a tower, and place it in a closet in the basement. If a dragon attacks the citadel, he may destroy the tower and set the wishes free. This would be a far greater evil than all the calamities we have faced together. Amaya went to the cabinet that held the staff. It was made of cherry wood, with the emblem of a golden sun and silver stars carved on the door. She spoke a password and placed her hand on the sun. It glowed at the touch of her hand and opened. She took the staff and went to the tower where all the wishes floated peacefully at the top of the dome. She pointed the staff and recited a spell, causing them to float down in a single line and dissolve within the staff. Then she locked the staff back inside the cabinet and asked two of her most trusted guards to help her carry it to a closet in the basement. She had scarcely finished her task when one of the guards in the great hall struck a large golden gong and cried, "Dragon! Dragon!" "Where?" she cried. "We saw it from a parapet!" For a moment, Amaya was paralyzed with fear. She looked up at the beautiful palace she and her husband had lavished so much love and care on, knowing it might be a thing of the past in a little while. But it did not matter. She was still a queen and would remain so to the end. "Send soldiers to every room in the castle," she said. "Tell them to make for the basement." Amaya went first to Sakina and Sebastian's room and ushered them down the hall, begging them make haste before they were caught in the crowd. Then she flew to the servants' quarters, floor by floor, sounding the alarm. Soon there were lines of people desperately pushing against each other to get to the doors of a great hall within the mountain on which the castle was built. Amaya refused to go inside herself until the line was near its end. Presently, she heard a great roar from outside. One of the guards took hold of her and said, "My lady, we cannot delay." He forced her in with the rest of the crowd and bolted the doors. The dragon swooped back and forth, belching long streams of fire, setting pieces of masonry loose and seizing people only to drop them when they were high above the city. He turned his head towards the castle and dove for it like a bullet towards its target. He perched himself on the top of a tower, curled his neck towards the windows, and torched the inside of a dome. Then he crawled along the great bridge that connected the tower to the arena and jerked his head back and forth, slinging soldiers to their deaths. Two of the soldiers hurled spears at him, but they simply bounced off his armor. Raphael, Asha, and Magnifico hovered above the city where they saw a trail of black smoke pouring out of a tower. They dove into the city and landed on the bridge right in front of the dragon himself. This time, Magnifico charged him head-on with drawn sword, for if he blinded him with the light from his staff, he would surely fly away. He leapt from his horse, hacking at the monster with all his might. The king's horse screamed with terror and galloped away. As frightened as Asha was, she knew she couldn't simply leave the two knights, so she slipped out of the stirrups and leapt upon the road. It hurt horribly, but she had the presence of mind to land on her hands, so she was only scraped a little. Because death was standing before her, she had only a second to feel the discomfort of her fall. Raphael saw his chance and circled behind the dragon. Agile as a monkey, he leapt from his horse as well onto the dragon's back and pulled himself up, grasping onto the spikes in his scales, one by one as if he were climbing a precipice. His intent was to climb all the way to the head and plunge the sword into his brain. Unfortunately, the dragon realized this. He swatted at Raphael, causing him to lose his balance. But because Raphael was a star, he could not fall, so he regained his balance and floated back to the bridge. Magnifico tried to blind the dragon with his staff so he could have a chance to stab him under his right arm as he raised it to cover his eyes, but the dragon grabbed the staff, causing it to break to splinters. Green shafts of light went flying everywhere as the pieces scattered on the pavement. It must have been dreadful for Magnifico to realize he would have to fight as any other soldier, but he did not lose his head for a moment. He stabbed with all his might at the dragon's head, hoping to hit one of the eyes or nostrils. For a moment, the dragon reeled back, screeching in pain, for Raphael had cut off the barbed end of his tail. Raphael then leapt upon his head for another attempt at a fatal stab, but the dragon seized him and shook him off until the sword fell out of his hand. Magnifico hacked at one of the dragon's legs, hoping it would be distracted and drop Raphael, but the dragon kicked Magnifico aside, causing him to drop his sword as well. Squeezing the Star Prince as tight as the coils of a python, he drew him closer to the wide, gaping mouth, intending to swallow him alive. But suddenly, an arrow shot out of nowhere and landed directly in the dragon's mouth. Whether the shooter had good aim or fate had willed it so, I do not know. But the arrow found its way through the mouth and pinned itself against the jugular of the throat. The dragon stumbled back for one dreadful moment, then fell over the bridge with a great crash, never to rise again. 2 columns of black smoke appeared from its nostrils and vanished on the wind. Magnifico picked himself up and looked around. Asha was holding her bow in a shooting position. Her eyes and mouth were wide with astonishment. The king staggered to her side and fell at her feet. For a while he could say nothing. Asha, the lowly servant girl who had set this adventure in motion from her misguided ideals, had slain the dragon and saved not only the king, but the entire island. Was it by chance or skill? It did not matter. Raphael and Magnifico owed their lives to her and much, much more. Magnifico threw his arms around her and kissed her on both cheeks as a father to a daughter. Then he took her hand and marched to the bridge to the arena where a crowd was already gathering with chants of, "Long live the king! Long live the king!" Magnifico raised his hands, begging them to desist. "Silence! It was not I who delivered your city, but Asha! Asha slew the dragon! Long live Asha!" Magnifico and Raphael bowed before her, and gradually so did the crowd. As they chanted her name, the feeling that overcame Asha was impossible to describe. Had she truly become the savior of a nation? It was too much for a simple peasant girl to bear. The world swam around her for a moment, and all went dark.